Hi, my name is Rosenile. Before coming to the Universal Church, my life was a mess. Started at the age of 13, 14. My dad left my mom and things started to change from there. I didn't understand what was going on at that age because I still was seeing my father. I just didn't know what was happening. At the age of 15, I consult my mother of what is going on. And then she explained to me what happened. It hit me hard because at that age I didn't really understand, or what I would say, just coming into life as a teenager and starting to know things. So then after that, I guess I wanted a replacement. I fall into a deep depression where I was lacking that father figure. At the age of 15, I got into a relationship. The guy was much older than me, much older, like he was 21 and I was 15. So he done no more than, me. The relationship lasted 3 years, which was very abusive. Every 2 to 3 days, we would end up in an argument, and then that argument would lead to fight. I would get hate. I remember this time, he pushed me, like the car was driving, and he had my head pushing out of the car. All I was seeing is concrete. Wrong was I. That lasted 3 years. I ended because he tried to kill me in front of my mother, and that is when I ended the relationship because it made my mother cry, more or less, or maybe going into 19, something like that. I ended up into a next relationship. This one lasted 7 years and a half. That's in 7 years and a half, you could imagine, how much women have been battling with this guy. I stayed 7 years. When I was 2 months pregnant, my mom found out she had cancer. After the first relationship, I would go to the rooftop and I would sit at the end of the roof, and there's where I started to smoke and drink. And then I would sit at the rooftop at the end, dangling my foot at the end, and a voice would come and say, just jump. And everything would be good, just jump. And then I wouldn't pay no mind. So then I started to smoke and drink. It would ease it a little, but then after everything wear off, then the next night I would find myself back there again. And then the voice would come back and he said, jump, everything would be okay. But when you're depressed, you find yourself in places you don't know how, but you find yourself there. And by 2008, my son was done a year already. He born in 2006. By 2008, my mom died. Then my world, my life, everything went upside down again. Then, to fill that gap now, the depression started back. To fill that gap now, I started to party. It was an Easter time. I rent a Jeep. I rent one for my brother and his friends, and I rent one for me and my girls. This time my son was only a year, not 2 as yet. And we was partying like Easter time, so we was jumping from beach to beach. And I remember this time, we link up, me and my brother, his Jeep was full and my Jeep was full of my girls. I had my newborn baby, well, not newborn, he was like a year and months, and I had him in his car seat, and we was like racing down Airport Road. And for us it was fun. We was drinking and we was smoking. Both vehicles was full of young teenagers, and we was having fun, and we didn't know exactly what we were doing. For us it was fun, going down Airport Road, drag racing with a 1-year-old baby inside. What was I thinking? I had a time I come to a stop because the Jeep the steering wheel started to lose control, and I stopped. I started to slow down and I stopped. And after that, I got in. After my mom died and the depression, I needed something and someone to fill that gap. And I turned to another relationship again. This relationship from the get-go, it was messed up because the person was already in a relationship, and then I was just there, and then they came with the sweet words, and I filled that gap with another relationship again. This one lasted 11 years and 2 months. From the get-go, like I say, it was I had a gun put to my head 3 times. I got beats, I got bites, I got a taser put in my face to get shocked. I didn't leave because I was so in love with this person that I always think like maybe this is how love is, and I sticked around and I sticked around. Then after certain years into the relationship, I was introduced to drinking again. I was introduced to smoking, popping pills. We used to pop all kind of different pills, Bob Marley, how they call it, Marley, X. Some of them were shaped like a skeleton head with a bone sticking out. And like they had different colors. You had these ones, you call them ghosts. They was shaped like a we would say a ghost, you know. And some was pink, some was blue, some was black. After the pills, then we started to use cocaine. This another drug introduced into my life, and he brought this one, and then he would say the same thing. I won't give you nothing to get you hooked or mess up your life. That was a lie. My son was in primary. I started to miss school for my son. I started to miss meetings for my son. And then I had a job. It started to mess up my job. I used to reach work late. It's because the drugs used to make me paranoid. I wouldn't sleep. I would be up in the night with voices in my head. And then it's like I had to work for maybe 7 and 8, and at 6 o'clock, I'm ready to go to sleep at 6 o'clock, and I have to work for 8. This with the cocaine lasted like 2 years. 2 years, maybe 2 years and a half more. I was so in it that, like, you know, I couldn't tell when time was passing because I was so in the drugs that it's like I can't do a day without wanting to sniff cocaine. The feeling that it gives, and I was addicted. When I say I would stop, I had a feeling for it again, so I would keep going back. And every time I say, this is not what I wanted to stop. And the only way I could have stopped the cocaine was to ask God to take me out of the relationship that I was in. Which then in that relationship, I never remembered God. The relationship ended after 11 years and 2 months. It didn't end pretty, but it ended. I didn't question God. I went back home. I lost everything. Everything was seized on my property, and I walked away from everything. Everything, I walked away from everything. I lost a lot, but then God took me out. I went home. 2 months while home, I stayed with my brother 2 months on his couch for 2 months. Or less, maybe 12. And I started to dress inappropriate. I started to dress half naked. And then the attention was nice back then. Attention was nice. I would get free drinks. I would get complimented for being one of the sexiest girls out there. And everywhere I go, I wouldn't have to pay for nothing. I get to go into the clubs. It's like in the beginning when I reach, you know, and then, yeah. After April passed, I wanted more partying, so I started clubbing. I started back to drinking. I started back to smoke marijuana, and that was my hype, going to the clubs. I started a club Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then that wasn't enough. I wanted more. So then I started to club in a week. I started to find bars where I play music, pull up with friends who are smoking. I wanted more. The weekend wasn't enough. And then after that, it was a Saturday night. After all, Saturday night, I went out. I went to the Carnival Village. I had something. After that, I went to find a club. I reached home the morning, and I was drunk. I went to sleep. I got up. I saw my sister-in-law getting ready. I said, "Where you going?" She said, "She's going to church." I told her, "Okay, I'm coming." And she's like, "You serious?" I said, "Yeah, I'm coming." Now in mine, I didn't know this was the Universal Church that we are going to. So I got ready. I tell her, wait. I went to the shop, got a beer. I said, well, what to beat a hangover is to drink something of alcohol. So went to the church with her. I sat in a corner. I was drunk. The guy in the back of me, he was high. So the conversation, and pastor is keeping the service, and we're there talking, because I was drunk and he was high. Wasn't listening nothing to the pastor say. So I went home. I came back another Sunday, and I said, let me pay attention. So I went back the other Sunday, and I started to listen to the pastor. I started coming frequently on Sundays, but then still something was missing. I would go home, back to the same life, smoking, drinking. Came back Sunday, and then I was invited to the YPG youth group. The first time I was invited, I never showed up. The second Sunday, I went back service. I said, I didn't see you. I think, come check it out, see what it's about. So I made up my mind, and I said, what, let me give it a try and see what it's about. It was positive. It had youths. The pastor was there, and he was giving the youths, So then the next Sunday now, I went back again, and this Sunday now, I sit up closer, and I participated in the activities. I stayed in the positive environment. I say, okay, it's nice. Pastor at the end, he gave a positive word of God, which was real nice. The environment was different than what I'm used to out in the world with the friends and that I kept. No drinking, no smoking, no obscene language. Positive environment. I came back, and so now this was my routine on Sunday service. Came back for the YPG, different environment. So now, one day I was missing something, and I decided, after the depression and everything, I overcame my depression because the environment and everything of God was different of what I'm used to, and then I was missing something. And then, and then it says get baptized. So I went and I got baptized, and from there, I lost my depression. The problems of the world was still there, but the peace I had, I wasn't taking on. I didn't want the drinking to comfort myself and fill that spot. I didn't want the smoking because I had peace now after getting baptized. So my word is to you, the youths, and anybody out there to overcome your depression. Seek God. Come to the Universal Church. Obey what the pastors say. Listen, follow God's word, and just do your part, and everything would be great. So yeah, seek God. If He can do it for me, the depression, the abuse, what I've been through, the drinking, the smoking, bad friends, the environment, everything. If God can change it for me, and why He can't do it for you as well? Seek God. Come to the Universal Church. Do a chain of prayer. Obey. Listen to what the pastor says, and everything will be great.